Please help me welcome Susan Seidelman and Rosanna Arquette. You have made us so very happy. And here at Ebertfest, we have a tradition of giving our visiting filmmakers a golden thumb cast from Roger's thumb years ago. So, okay. The director, Susan Seidelman, golden thumb. And Rosanna Arquette, a golden thumb for you, madame. We are going to, they're so heavy, we're going to have someone take them away so we can do the panel. And I'd like to call out to the stage, again, Dr. Dion Metzger to join us for the panel. And my late husband's partner, Richard Roper.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Take a seat. You two are
I feel like the Des of the group. I'm just showing up with all the women and going to try to stay out of trouble mainly.
Did they give you microphones? First of all, you asked a question. You posed a question to the audience. Does this film hold up 40 years later? What is the answer?
Is anyone seeing it for the first time up on a big screen?
Okay. Who is seeing this film for the very first time on a big screen?
Wow.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Wow! That's so cool.
I'll start off then, if you'd like. Yeah, first of all, it's really cool to see it in this beautiful environment with all these fantastic, beautiful, respectful, cell phone put-awaying people.
Yeah, no cell phones.
I'm sure
at Ebertfest.
Susan feels the same way, too. I want to talk a little bit, if I can, a little bit about, as I was watching this for the first time in a while, if we can talk a little bit about the production design, which I think is so integral to the story, because I feel like there's a lot of social commentary that's not obvious here, where we think we're seeing vestiges of the 50s New York and the Magic Club, and I think in Roberta's life. We don't know a lot about what led to that, but we know she was married at 21, and she got this suburban life, and then Susan's the opposite side of the same coin, and we see both of their lives actually switch. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, oh, good, it's on. We very intentionally tried to create two very distinct worlds. And I was fortunate enough to work with a wonderful DP, Ed Lockman.
Oh, yeah, I love Ed Lockman.
Yeah. You can see the beginning of his future work in this film. And also with Santo Loquasto, who was both the production designer and the costume designer. And if you look at it, everything about those worlds are very separate. You know, Roberta's suburban world is lit in very pastel, soft colors. She's wearing beige and peach and very feminine, sort of passive colors, as opposed to Susan's world, which is shot using a lot of, we wanted it to be gritty, but also hyper-realistic, kind of magical. So keeping all the texture that was a part of New York back then, because the city was still kind of recovering, the walls were graffiti covered, and but lighting it with colored gels so that it looked magical. And part of the inspiration for that, and maybe you can see that in this movie, was actually Alice in Wonderland. I mean, when I was talking with Ed and Santo, the idea was that the Roberta character was this sort of Alice character, you know, this unhappy, slightly bored housewife. Susan is the white rabbit who leads her down the rabbit hole into Wonderland. And so the intention was to make New York City feel like Wonderland.
And I'd like to know, how did you and Rosanna get together on this? How were you cast, and what kind of directions were you giving? And Rosanna, what were you looking for? What were you bringing to the role as you read the script?
I loved the screenplay when I read it. It was a situation where I think the studio asked me to do it, and she was stuck with me. I mean, I think that's.
But you were part of the
process
of
of
the project
casting.
when I came on board.
Yeah, and we got to see all these amazing actors. A lot of amazing actresses, close friends of mine have become through the years, like Melanie Griffith, Ellen Barkin, Jennifer Jason Leigh, like all these people were up for the Madonna part.
Yeah.
And then Madonna exploded while we were in this time.
But we didn't know that.
We didn't
when
know
we
it yet.
started.
She was the girl in Lucky Star video. I remember when you cast her, you decided to go, because how did you cast her?
Well, I knew her because I had made an independent movie called Smithereens that was set. That was set in the Lower East Side. It was shot in 1982, and I lived in the Lower East Side, so I kind of knew that world. I knew, you know, the people who were hanging out in the clubs, and she lived 3 blocks away from me. So I kind of knew her before she exploded, but MTV started, I think it was around 1982 or 3.
Yeah.
And they didn't have that many music videos back then. So the ones that existed were on heavy rotation. And actually,
Lucky Star.
It was Lucky Star
that
and
was the one I was like,
Borderline. But it was Borderline, where she was wearing that floppy.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw that, and I thought, she knows how to flirt with the camera. She likes the camera likes her. But I think it was also another thing. To me, it was really important coming out of independent cinema to have a certain kind of authenticity. And I didn't want this to look like a movie where somebody, you know, a studio comes in and somebody from Hollywood comes in and has people wearing punky costumes, and it just looks kind of phony. So it was important, and I think it worked out really well, the mix of sort of professional up-and-coming actors, but woven throughout the whole movie, there's a lot of downtown characters that were very much really part of that New York scene, like John Laurie and Richard Edson, who you might know from Jim Jarmusch movies, or Rocket's Red Glare, the taxi driver. I mean, they're sprinkled throughout. And I think that mix of professional people, up and coming, and you who were, you know, you had done some great stuff, and you were the most experienced out of all of us, I think. But that gave it a kind of authenticity that also fit with that theme of 2 very different worlds.
And Rosanna, how did it feel to play the the good girl, the suburban housewife, and then get to play the wild girl as well after you hit your head, of course.
Well, I liked her journey of trying to discover, like, she was an unhappy person in an unhappy marriage for her. It wasn't, she just was miserable inside. That's why she was seeking outside of her marriage for something to get her out of her boredom. And then her transition to finding herself in this world and having a real connection deeply with the man, which is what she was yearning. And so it was fun to play that.
Can I ask you a question? I don't know if this is true or not, but I think I heard that when you were first given the script, you thought you were being asked to play Susan?
Yes, I did. I thought they wanted me to play Susan, but they wanted me to play, yeah. But so I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, I'm a New Yorker who grew up there in the 80s, so this was very nostalgic for me. What was it like really filming in the city? I know it's very different than what it used to be, but back then, how was it?
It was great. You know, the weird thing, as I said earlier, I think that the studio, you know, this was made for a little under $5 million. And for a studio movie back then, that was low budget.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that it was so different than the other films that Orion was making, and that the studios in general were making, it was a low investment and it was a quirky investment. So weirdly enough, there weren't a lot of studio executives on the set looking over my shoulder, which was my biggest fear coming out of independent cinema, that somebody would be watching me all the time and questioning, and I wouldn't be able to kind of do the things I wanted to do. So the fact that they were paying attention, but not super attention, allowed us to kind of run around a lot. And you know, the city is, you know, if you're going to film in the city, you want to kind of use, especially downtown, you want to use all those things. You want to use the wall on St. Mark's Street that has all those
Battery
posters.
Park.
Yeah, I mean, it really is sort of a little time capsule of New York City of that time.
Yeah.
You know, this film exploded out of nowhere. I remember seeing it 40 years ago, and I remember women getting together. It was the first time, I think, that women were kind of getting together to go see the movie because we didn't have anything like that.
And what's interesting is that after it did exceed the studio's expectations, suddenly this was 85, by 87, 88, suddenly Penny Marshall was making, you know, her movies with a female perspective. And then, you know, there was Amy Heckerling. You know, but suddenly there was, the Hollywood realized that maybe, we can make some movies with women, about women, and maybe they'll make some money.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And one of the great things, too, is you notice the men are always a day late and a dollar short when it comes to the crucial moments, right? You know, in an old-fashioned movie, Des would have been the guy that comes in at the end and gets Meeks, but instead it's Roberta, and then Jim comes through, and Gary's always a step behind, which again, at the time, was really something special and unique. I want to ask Rosanna a little bit about the physical comedy that you got to do and how that came about. Was that something that was kind of baked into the script that Roberta had this sort of endearing clumsiness, if you will?
You're in, I don't plan anything. It just is there, you know, like just, you know, the guy that's walking down the street with Susan, and he's very large and she hides behind her. Like we didn't plan any of that. You know, just kind of just.
Well, some of it was planned.
Well,
Not your performance, but the guy walking down the street.
No.
Yeah. But you know what? It's your little. You do these amazing little facial expressions, just these subtle little moments that are so small and subtle and perfect.
Oh. I don't watch myself in movies, and so I did see a rough cut of this. This is years ago, and then there were recent, last year or a year and a half ago at Vidiot's in LA, I hadn't seen it in years. And here, this is such a beautiful theater and this audience, and it looked, and I got really emotional, you know, and she did such a beautiful job. And I want to thank Roger Ebert and Richard, but Roger and Siskel Ebert, you know, they loved this movie, and he was always really supportive and great. And I love that you've carried on this beautiful festival. Yeah. And it's wonderful. And he was a fan, and he was always supportive of me. I made a documentary called Searching for Deborah Winger, and he's the only man in it.
Thank you, thank you.
What was it like watching it again now compared to when you're looking at the rough cut?
I didn't think I was going to sit and watch it, and then it looked so, like the colors and the ways Santo's production design, and you know, with this all. I remember you saying you wanted to shoot it like Diva. That was one of the first meetings when we had, like that, like you thought that was something.
That had that
Jean-Jacques
magical
Benet movie, yeah. And it looks so amazing, like the colors and the way it was lit, and it just, I know, I was like, I stayed, you know, and watched it, and it was, I was very emotional at the end, and you know, you did a beautiful job, and it's 40 years later, and wow. Thank you.
And it plays even better today.
Yeah, it does.
I wanted to ask you how, after the movie was so popular at the time, did they start treating you differently after that? You as a director, you as an actor?
Yes. I mean, when you make a movie that, I think it was about expectations, exceeds their expectations. It kind of gives you a free card, you know. Yeah, I mean, it definitely made getting my next movie and the one after that, I didn't have to jump through as many hoops. But one of the things that was important to me, and that I hope maybe some of you notice, is I like movies where when you see them again, you notice new and different things. It's sort of like in-jokes, not in-jokes, but little details that you don't have to notice the first time around, and then you say, oh, that's interesting, that big ice cream sundae painting in the back of when she's eating, you know, sitting there with the cake. You know, it just sort of said something about the saccharine sweetness of this relationship. Or the little snippets that are on television that have another
Julia
meaning.
Childs.
Yeah.
Oh, and I saw the triplets in there too.
And
The triplets,
Triplets were in
yes.
there.
I think, did we show that movie about the
And your
triplets
dad.
from, where are they from?
Your dad's in it.
Brooklyn or
I
no?
thought
where?
that-
The triplets, the triplets.
I think your
Yeah,
dad
what
is
was
in
the
it.
name of- I can't remember the name of it.
There's a documentary about those
Yes.
triplets.
No, Martin Scorsese's dad.
Comes behind Madonna when she's doing the ad.
No,
and
that's not my
I thought
dad.
that was your dad.
No.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Oh, you know who I noticed? John Turturro. Was that one of his
Yes.
earlier roles?
Yes.
That was
That
one of his
was.
first jobs.
And you know, there's like little people, you look at, Giancarlo Esposito is the guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who was in Megalopolis as the mayor
Yeah, we
today.
saw him
Did you
twice
notice that was Giancarlo Esposito that we saw this morning in that movie as well?
Yeah.
All those little touches also, and again, it's sort of like when you listen to an album for the first time, and then when you re-listen to it, especially when albums were sequential and were supposed to be certain songs heard in a certain order. So I think one of the many things that endear us to Roberta is we see, like, with animals, with the fish, when she's immediately, as she doesn't know who she is, but she's kind of looking at, and then through all of the craziness of that night, she's got the bird with her on the bench, you know. That nothing is said about it, but it's like she was still you were looking out for that bird no matter what.
Yeah. And watching it again, one of the things I paid attention to was how clothing plays an important part in telling this story. The pyramid jacket is the symbol of the kind of transference of, you know, the Susan character to the Roberta character. She kind of passes on this jacket, and that gives Roberta permission to enter into, to be her real self, or to at least allow that part of her to come out. And even when you look at the kind of arc of Roberta's clothing, you know, she starts off very conservative, very sort of passive in her, and soft in her clothing. And then she tries to be Susan, and it's like a little too much.
Right. She jumps all the way in.
It's like a Halloween costume a little bit.
Yeah.
And then that changes to the end when she is some mix of Roberta and Susan in a more
his shirt.
comfortable way.
She was wearing his shirt.
I heard there was a lot of copies of that jacket after the film was released.
Yeah, I don't know how many there were.
I heard,
Do you
I heard it became really popular.
What happened to the jacket? You have the jacket?
No, I had it, and then I gave it. I was to Peter Gabriel's daughters, and I don't know, and they lost it. I feel bad. And you didn't know how valuable something like I would have loved to have that now. You know, donate.
Worn by Elvis and Jimi Hendrix. I mean, it has quite a history.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix. I forgot about that part.
Yeah. There's something else I wanted to just mention, because it's really, I think it's so important to the film, and that is Tom Newman's score.
Oh, yes.
It adds that magical, I call it like tinkling, that kind of fairy dust layer over the movie. And I remember meeting him, and the music supervisor had told me about this guy, said, you know, maybe you should consider him and talk to him. And I had he had done 2 other movies before this one, but they were nothing like this. The one he had done right before this actually was Revenge of the Nerds.
Another favorite.
And there was nothing in the soundtrack that I thought made sense for this movie. And then I met him in his studio, and he started playing around with some sounds, and suddenly we both at the same time heard that. I don't know what the instrument is. It's, you know, an electronic, whatever it is.
Kind
But
of a
that-
synthesizer driven.
Yeah, but it had that magic tinkle. And, you know, for me, that moment when Roberta's looking out, it's, you know, the party, and she's looking out and sees the bridge. And then that music kind of kicks in as we see the bus pull up. That was, to me, the music that represented going from this world
To that world,
into Wonderland in a way. And interestingly, that sound, I think, became almost like a signature sound for a little while for Tom. When you hear the opening of that amazing shot in the movie, The Player, he did the soundtrack. It's a variation of this music. When you listen to American Beauty, you can also hear some variation of this music in
Go
there.
back and watch it.
And they used the music. They kind of take this music and put it in other movies. Have you know? Do you know?
Oh,
what
really?
They do?
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
they do that. His stuff. Yeah.
How did
A lot
you
of
choose Ed Lockman for this movie? I love his cinematography.
You know, so I was coming from the independent world, and I was very aware. I had heard horror stories of other women who had made one indie low-budget movie that got some attention, and then they did their first studio movie, and they had a heavy-handed crew and heavy-handed producers looking over the shoulders, and it just wasn't a good experience, and the movie didn't work. So I thought it was really important to kind of work with people that, you know, casting your crew is as important as casting your cast. And I met Ed, because he had done some German movies, documentaries. I think he'd worked with Wim Wenders or Herzog. And I met him in Telluride at a party, and we danced together. And he liked to dance, I liked to dance. And then it was like, you know, was,
Let's make a movie.
Let's make a movie. It was really that. And I also felt that we were both at the same place, coming from the independent world and about to make our first studio movie, and that he would be an ally. And he was. I mean, he brought so much to the film. But, yeah.
Which brings me to a question about today in the industry. I'd like to hear from both of you. Where do you think we are? Where do you think we're headed? And what would you like to see happen? Oh, nice. Look at
Yeah, heavy one.
I'm sorry for bringing you down a bit.
I'm afraid to answer that question. I don't know where we're headed. I think that art heals and artists will still always create no matter what. Corporations have bought up the entertainment industry, and thank God for young filmmakers, independent filmmakers. They're our future, and keep telling stories, and give us hope. And yeah.
Honestly, I have kind of mixed feelings. On the one hand, I think that that there's so many interesting things about streaming, and it has given so many outsiders, all kinds of outsiders, opportunities to make movies just because we need more voices. But what makes me sad, and what made today so special, is watching a movie in a big theater in the dark. It's magical, and magic is so important in movies. I mean, that's why magic is the theme in this.
Right.
It's so important. And that isn't happening. I mean, thank God for some of the independent art cinemas, but so many of the bigger movie theater chains are gone, and people are used to watching movies on TV as you put it on pause and go do your laundry.
Or on your phone.
Yeah, so that's something that I think is a little sad.
One of the reasons we come back here to the Virginia Theater year after year, we have this huge screen, and we have the best projectionist in the world. His real name is James Bond. People fly him all over the world to project their films, especially if they're doing something in 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter. It can go to any type of projection, and we just like the communal aspect of this.
Yeah.
It's just, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And Roger thought that it was a way to preserve not only the art, but the art of humanity. And so that's why this film festival exists.
Yeah. Well, bless him. Yeah.
We're going to, thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Roger. God bless you.
We have some microphones in the audience. We're going to open up to microphones, please. Where are the microphones? Oh, good.
I have a question back here on House Right.
House Right, stand, please. Are you standing?
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you, Susan. I'm back here. Thank you, Susan, for.
I can't see, but okay.
So thank you for
Thank
opening this up for more women to be in control of what they're doing behind the camera and in front of it as well. Rosanna, I fell in love with you in 1985. Not from this movie, from After Hours. I remember seeing you for the first time, and honestly, the whole cast and that was great too. And Martin Scorsese made that. And I'm just blown away by how much more money you made than in this movie than you did in After Hours, because this made like 27 million, and Martin's made just a little over like 7 or 8 million.
Really?
So
What are you, an accountant? I think he's got paperwork.
I don't,
No, I have Wikipedia. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, and I still love you. So,
oh, thank you. You know, I did After Hours and then went right into this movie.
Yeah,
Like a day later, it was crazy. It was
Yeah.
back to back,
yeah, yeah. And actually, Martin Scorsese's father is in this
Yeah, that's-
movie.
In this
He's in the movie.
He's in the
Where
Magic
was
Club.
Charlie?
He's, go ahead, you
Go
go.
ahead, sorry.
You go.
No, you said it, sorry.
He's the older gentleman who is sitting at the Magic Club where Roberta does the duck trick. He's sitting with a much younger woman.
Right.
The
Yep.
glasses.
Yeah. And I just, speaking about that, I wanted to answer something. I forgot to answer it. One of the things we tried to do with the Magic Club, because we wanted it to be magical, was not to give it a specific time. You know, so it's a little bit, if you look at the costume, it's a little bit 1950s, it's a little bit punk, a little bit futuristic, you know, the guy.
It's a little Twilight Zone, really.
It's
yeah.
a mix
It
of all
exists
of
in
that.
its own world, and people are, even though it is what it is, the people who are going there, it's a big night out. It's the big date, and they're dressed up for it.
Yeah.
Which is on brand for New York.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Question.
Can I mention one other thing? that
Okay,
just
go
while
right
it's in there?
ahead,
Sorry if
Madam
I don't mean
Director.
to. It just, and maybe you could talk about it a little bit. We had a different ending. The script ended differently.
Oh, yeah, I was very,
Yeah.
the ending of the movie that I read and I thought we were doing, the girls, Susan and Roberta, go off on an adventure together and they're in the desert on a camel. Going to the pyramids is really what they were doing.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's what I thought that was the ending. We shot it. There is footage of it, not at the pyramids, but what, in New Jersey or something? It's sand and camel. We were on, and we did that. And I was so sad when they cut that out because I loved that they didn't end up with the guys. I kind of they're off finding themselves again in another. And I did the movie for that, and I was really bummed out when they cut that, but it worked.
Hey, could that be in a director's
ever
cut
after.
or something?
It will be. They are. In fact, it is in one of the DVD cuts.
Okay.
But let me tell you why. And that is because when we started to screen the movie, which is really important to get feedback just from regular audiences, we realized that the movie had too many endings. It felt like it ended when they go to the movie theater, you kiss Des, and there she is, Madonna is with Jim. And you could feel the audience. I pay a lot of attention in those screenings, not to even so much what's on the screen. I'm paying attention to what I feel from sitting in the audience with real people. And I could feel everyone, the couples reunite in some way. And I could feel them getting up out of the, feeling good and getting up out of the seats. And then there was another scene with the guys in a bar talking about whatever happened to the women. And then there was the scene with the women on the camels. And it just felt like it had too many endings. And there was something about this ending, again, being a kind of lover of genre and lover of cinema. This is a romantic comedy, and it's borrowed. A lot of the devices are borrowed from screwball comedies and old movies. The MacGuffin, the earrings are silly, but it's the MacGuffin that pushes you through. Or the amnesia, it's a device, I know that. And so ending it in the movie theater where they kiss and their kiss literally burns the screen and the screen melts just felt like the right meta ending for the movie.
You know best.
You would see nowadays that would maybe be the mid-credits scene that they would put in, would be the two of them on their adventure,
Yeah.
We have a question from the balcony in the center.
Balcony center.
Hello, my question is for Rosanna. and it has to do with age, both mine and yours, I guess. I saw this movie in the theater when it first came out, and I loved it. And I'm so happy to see it again today in a theater because I so prefer to see movies in the theater. So that's maybe an aspect of my age. And I was curious to hear you say that you don't usually watch yourself in films, but that today you had watched this. I've always wondered what it's like for actors to be able to see yourself at younger ages so extensively. My family didn't take pictures at all, so I don't really have many pictures of myself younger. But for actors, you know, at least your work life is documented across the course of your life. What's it like to see yourself, these images of yourself from years ago?
I look, it's like, oh my God, I look so young. What can you do? It's part of life, and aging and trying to age gracefully and be okay with it, you know. Of course, I go, you know, like, how can you not when we're in this industry and they're wanting younger and younger? But I haven't, you know, gone down that road yet under the knife or any of that. But it scares me. And I'm just trying to
maybe
age
because you're
gracefully,
still so
trying to
beautiful.
age as much gracefully as we possibly can, and still live in my skin and be a real human being, and not, because I've noticed the people that do that, and no judgment, but if you can't move your face, if you're like this, you know, I want to see, I want to feel, I want to see the frowns, you know? I do. Not to say that I wouldn't, I don't know, but at this point in my life, I haven't yet, but you know, you take care of yourself, you do the best you can. Don't eat a lot of sugar, stay out of the sun. Acupuncture needles are good. Yeah, for now, I don't know.
I wanted to ask, we'll have another question, but I wanted to ask that maybe somehow move over to when you decided to direct, what was the impetus behind that, and how do you find your directing experience as opposed to your acting experience?
Oh, me, I directed 2 documentaries. It was really...
Microphone.
Directed 2 documentaries. First one was called Searching for Deborah Winger, because I was hit 40, and I was watching how the roles were changing and getting judged for aging, like people don't want you and, you know, older. And so I decided to talk to a lot of actresses. I always loved Deborah Winger, and so it's called that. And sat down, a lot of talking heads. But did you ever see it?
Yeah, it's terrific.
Yeah, just asking the questions: how do you do it? How do you balance your life with your art? How do you motherhood? How do you go away on location? It's hard, you know. It was hard to be a mom and then have to go. My kids started school, and it was like, this is not working. It's too hard. Like when she was a teenager, no, I cannot go on location for 3 weeks, like a month or 6 weeks. It's you got to be there. And so something takes the back seat, and the people that can do it all, wow, lucky them. Because there are many people that you see that do. I think the working relationships that work when you can create together and work together, that I would love that. I've never been lucky enough to have that. Anyway.
Question?
Yeah. Hello?
Tell us where you are.
I am right here. My name is Juliet. Yeah. So first a comment. I wanted to say there's not a lot of movies that come to mind that have such like an actual dream-like quality. Like it feels like the whole thing is a dream. And I wanted to say, awesome, obviously on the direction, amazing performance, incredible. It just feels like it almost feels like we were talking about Fellini earlier, like surreal. I think with the colors start to establish that. The question though is less profound. The question was, how was it working with the birds? And the magic, the trick where the woman is cut into, was there I guess a question for Susan, was there significance behind that magic trick? And then for Rosanna, what was it like filming it?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Sorry,
Repeat the question.
What was like
What was it like working with the birds?
Yeah, well,
What was it like
shooting
filming
the
it? And also, there was another part to it.
The significance of the trick.
You see this moment of, I just said it to you tonight. Did you see when the first magic trick she does, and then there's a bird that goes up. If you notice that it plops down, it's like, I think it got.
It died?
It died. I think it got burnt or something. So if you notice that the bird flops down, which I think it might have got, I don't know.
I think we just kind of let the birds.
Some animals were harmed in the making of this movie. They never say that at the end.
No, they never said.
But living things, I love animals, so yes, they're like alive. And they're
You don't
beings.
really direct birds, you just kind of let them
Let
do
them do
their
their thing.
thing.
Yeah, was there any significance to it, to the magic trick? And how does it work? Because her feet were moving.
Oh,
the
yeah,
other one.
there was a small person in the feet half, and you were folded
Crunched
up
like yeah.
in the head part. But, you know, this is a movie about doubles and feeling split in half. You know, there's this side of you and the inner side of you and the outer side of you. So anytime we could use themes that had to do with doubling or repetition in some way, you know, that's what was sort of wonderful about, I mean, it's the fortuitous thing that happened, the triplets.
The triplets. Yes.
They just happened to be walking down the street that day. Literally,
No way.
we were setting up the.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
we were setting
my
up the camera,
gosh.
and the scene was just, you know, Madonna walks into the newspaper,
Yeah, and they're on the outside.
walking down the street. On that street were three guys dressed alike, and it was like, hey, you want to be in our movie? And it just felt right.
That's cool.
I'm getting the signal. I think we have two more questions right here front.
Thank you very much for this event. Susan and Rosanna, thank you for being here. And I have a question for Susan. Talking about your philosophy behind the movie and your artistic choices for it. One, did you come up with the jacket design yourself? Two, what sets were created at the Magic Club and why at the place where Malcolm X was killed?
Yeah, that was the Audubon Ballroom is where we filmed.
I did not know that.
Yes, that was the Audubon Ballroom, which had gone to rack and ruin after Malcolm X died. And it was an abandoned building, and I think Santo was looking for some place that was crumbling, that he could go in and just do whatever he wanted with. So that's why we used that particular building.
I went and lit a candle and said a prayer.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I went and
She lit a candle and said a prayer. Thank you. What sets were created? What sets?
What sets? Well, everything in the Magic Club was there, and there was one. I mean, the place was falling apart. You know, holes in the floor, and so all that was recreated. The roof had that roof. The roof looked like that, but it was lit in green, so it made it look kind of special. And the only other outside set that I remember that we created there was the scene where Madonna's friend Crystal is polishing her toenails, and that was filmed in a back room of the Audubon Ballroom. Yeah. The jacket was in the script. The jacket was written in the script. The design, we knew it, we wanted, you know, there was a the double meaning of things. The pyramids, it's magical, and then it's also material girl. So it's the dollar bill as well as the magical aspect of that symbol. But the pyramid was written in the script.
Oh, speaking of music, how at the time I don't think Madonna she wasn't that well known when the movie
Not in
first
the
came
beginning.
out. So how did we get? She's standing there and her music is on in the background. She's playing which song was
Get in
it?
the Groove.
Get
My
in the
favorite.
Groove.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
What what happened was, when you're filming a dance scene, you put on temp music just to get all the background extras up and moving to the same beat. And the night before we shot that scene in Danceteria, we went there to rehearse, and Madonna came over to me and said, I have this tape. She literally gave me a tape cassette. I wish I had it. She gave me a tape cassette and said, it's a new thing I just worked on with a guy named Stephen Bray, and do you mind if we just play it? And it was intended just as temp music to get everyone dancing, and then you turn it off and then the dialogue continues. And then what happened was in the editing room, sitting with Andy Monsheen, the editor, we just couldn't find anything better. We just fell in love with the temp score, and it ended up in the movie. And by that time, Like a Virgin album had come out, and it really was pretty amazing to see the way her career skyrocketed over the course of weeks. And then, of course, Orion, being smart, they were willing to pay, even though she didn't get paid much up front to be in the movie.
Freddie Demand made sure they paid.
Made up for it in the music.
Okay, I think I'm getting the signal that we have one more question.
One more question from the balcony in the center.
I love having the last question from the balcony. Balcony center.
Okay, here we are. This is a question on behalf of my daughter, who had to leave a little early to return to Chicago, where she is a projectionist at the Siskel. And as a projectionist, she found some scenes in this movie particularly difficult to watch. If you think about the scenes with Des and so forth. So, this is her question, which you somewhat touched on already. She noticed a cutout of Claude Colbert in the Magic Club. How are you influenced by classic screwball comedies? If you could say a little more about that. Like It Happened One Night while making this movie.
Extremely influenced. In fact, this movie and the movie I did after it, Making Mr. Right, which is also very much influenced by screwball comedies, because back then in the 30s and 40s, there were still great roles for women. They were allowed to be smart, they were allowed to be funny, they were allowed to be as smart or smarter than their male counterpart in the movie. And then in the 50s, back to the kitchen and the bedroom, it just kind of stopped. So as a movie lover, those were the movies, those were the kinds of female characters, women, that I gravitated to, because they had that combination of humor and intelligence.
And speaking of humor and intelligence, you will be signing your book right after this. So please help. Thank you so much. Let's stand so they can give you a big applause. Thank you so much for coming.
The book signing. She's going to be signing books outside.
In the East Lobby.
In the East Lobby.
That's what I just said.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah. I think, did you hear me say she's signing books in the East Lobby right now?
Yeah.
I think I said that.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, okay.
You did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a book signing anywhere? One more.